Ji Tiandao had done many bad things. However, even the evil deeds of his 9 disciples would be placed on him by the people in the cultivation world. As time passed, he became more and more infamous, and many people would push their crimes on him. After all, he had already committed so many wicked deeds. What was a few more? When his crimes, whether he committed them or not, grew, he did not explain himself. After all, it would take too much of his time to clear his name. However, Zhou could not tolerate something like this. Fan Xiuwen quickly said, "The Black Knights were only following orders. We aren't the mastermind behind this. Moreover, from what I know, the 6th disciple of Evil Sky Pavilion is a traitor. Why would you pit yourself against the palace for a mere traitor, old senior?" Upon hearing this, Yi Tianxin forced herself to stand. With her mortal body, she grabbed the sword that one of the female cultivators from Derived Moon Palace carried. Zing! The blade gleamed coldly as Yi Tianxin thrust the sword toward Fan Xiuwen. Bang! Fan Xiuwen did not move. His hands remained on his back. He was like a statue made from rock. The sword cracked and shattered when it landed on him. Everyone was shocked. Yi Tianxin's eyes were red. She said belligerently, "Who's the mastermind? Who is it?" Whoosh! Fan Xiuwen released a wave of energy that pushed Yi Tianxin away. "Old Senior Ji, the Black Knights do not wish to become enemies with the Evil Sky Pavilion. I've answered all your questions. As for the mastermind, forgive me for not being able to answer you. Since I've already conveyed the palace's message to you, it's up to you what you decide to do, Old Senior." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and strode toward the door. Upon seeing this, Fan Xiuwen's 4 subordinates stood up and cupped their hands together before leaving with their leader. Fan Xiuwen took 2 steps forward before suddenly coming to a halt. "However, as a junior, I have 2 pieces of advice for you, Old Senior. First, it's best not to go against the palace. After all, 10 years will pass in just a blink of an eye. Second, although the Black Knights can't compare with the Evil Sky Pavilion, we aren't pushovers as well. We'll take our leave now." Since they had arrived at the Evil Sky Pavilion until now, they had been constantly disregarded and disrespected. They had never been treated in this manner before. They had to forfeit their pride and dignity here. Even Fan Xiuwen had acted humbly. However, after listening to Fan Xiuwen's parting words, they felt extremely refreshed. The knots in their hearts seemed to have vanished with his words. They found his statement appropriate. After all, it was true that the Black Knights was no pushover. Before the 5 visitors could leave the pavilion, Zhou stroked his beard and said in a deceptively calm voice, "Did I allow you to leave?" Fan Xiuwen stopped in his tracks. His heart skipped a beat. "When I summoned you here, I had no intention of letting you leave." Zhou waved his hand. Duanmu Sheng and Mingshi Yin had been itching for action. They thought their master would avoid conflict. After all, the Black Knights was sent by the palace. Duanmu Sheng and Mingshi Yin were not individuals who did not know the immensity of the heavens like Zuxin Chan. They really did not expect the old man to be so unyielding. Whoosh! Whoosh! Mingshi Yin and Duanmu Sheng shot out immediately. Fan Xiuwen turned around slowly and said, "Do you really want to do this for the sake of a traitor?" Zhou replied flippantly, "I'll punish the traitor in due time. This is no place for you to order me around. Tell me the mastermind behind the incident, and I'll leave your corpse intact." Realization dawned on Fan Xiuwen. He returned to his seat. He cupped his hands and called out, "For Dark Knights?" "Yes, my lord." The 4 Dark Knights answered in unison. "Since the Evil Sky Pavilion wants to witness the strength of the Black Knights, we'll grant them their wish." BZZD, 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 BZZD. For buzzes rang in the air before 2 3-leaf and 2 2-leaf golden lotus avatars appeared. The avatars, each 30 to 40 feet tall, towered above the others, shrouded in an intimidating aura. The others looked at the 4 avatars in shock. However, Zhou was not surprised. The great leader of the Black Knights, who was once on the top of the blacklist, naturally had some tricks up his sleeves. Since he was bold enough to come, it meant he was confident of his and his men's strength. The four Dark Knights were all nascent divinity tribulation realm experts. Fan Xiuwen placed his hands on his back as he said, "I stand by my words. I don't wish to become enemies with the evil Sky Pavilion." His words grated on the ears of the listeners. This was a great example of moving forward by taking a step backward. He kept on saying he did not want to oppose the evil Sky Pavilion, but his actions were contrary to his words. Even the evil Sky Pavilion's traitor Yi Qianxin was angered when she heard Fan Xiuwen's words. Meanwhile, Zhou was considering his options. Little Yuaner could do nothing against the four nascent divinity tribulation realm experts. Mingshi Yin and Duanmu Sheng could handle a knight each. That left him with two knights in Fan Xiuwen, the leader of the Black Knights, whose cultivation base was profound. Naturally, he could use a deadly strike card and get rid of Fan Xiuwen immediately, but he had yet to discover the true mastermind Fish Dragon Village incident. Moreover, if he killed Fan Xiuwen, his remaining item cards were not enough to deal with the remaining four knights. Although he had merit points to spare to get more deadly strike cards, he wanted to save as many merit points as he could. After all, merit points were hard to come by. While Zhou was deep in thoughts, one of the four Black Knights began to provoke Mingshi Yin. "Since you killed our men, I've been itching to spar with you." Mingshi Yin had just recently broken through to the nascent divinity tribulation realm. After all, he was slightly flustered by this and took several steps backward. He tapped the ground with the tips of his feet before he leaped backward at an angle. This Black Knight was extremely confident. He intended on defeating Mingshi Yin on his own. Stand back. We, Black Knights, do not have to resort to strength in numbers. The Dark Knights were pleased with this development, and thus the duo fought fiercely, leaving the hall and carrying the fight to the distance. Zhou thought it was just as well. Although Mingshi Yin's avatar had no leaves yet, he had been suppressed for an extended period of time before he broke through to the nascent divinity tribulation realm. Similar to Duanmu Sheng, Mingshi Yin could be considered as being prepared. Moreover, battles like this would help with their growth. With Mingshi Yin's craftiness, he would definitely flee if he could not defeat his opponent. There was no need for him to worry about Mingshi Yin's safety. On the other hand, Duanmu Sheng reacted differently. He said in a deep voice, "One isn't enough. Two of you can come at me at once." He brandished his overlord spear, his chains clanking loudly in the process. Fan Xiuwen turned slightly to look at Duanmu Sheng. A heaven-grade weapon? The heaven-grade weapon, the overlord spear, seemed exceptionally majestic in Duanmu Sheng's hands. The dragon coiled itself in the end of the spear's shaft to its tip. Duanmu Sheng grabbed the dragon's tail and head simultaneously and shook the spear. Powerful and terrifying primal chi surged out of the overlord's spear immediately. He did not give his opponents time to think as he charged, without warning, toward one of the Dark Knights. The Dark Knight moved his avatar and parried Duanmu Sheng's blows. However, the gap between someone who possessed a heaven-grade weapon and someone who did not possess a heaven-grade weapon was quite wide. This was common knowledge in the cultivation world. The energy from the heaven-grade weapon increased Duanmu Sheng's strength greatly. A skilled weapon user could also achieve a breakthrough in his avatar with a heaven-grade weapon. However, without the avatar, the advantage from the nascent divinity tribulation realm would be gone. Bang! 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 Duanmu Sheng thrust the overlord spear out mercilessly. At this moment, the spear looked like a dragon. It seemed like he was overwhelming his opponent. He fought more valiantly as the battle dragged on. It did not take long before he and his opponent brought their fight out of Great Hall as well. "I'll go." The third Dark Knight felt something was amiss, so he quickly decided to join in the fray, making the fight 2 against 1. With a heaven-grade weapon, Duanmu Sheng could face off against a 2-leaf avatar and a 3-leaf avatar at once. He had been fiercely suppressing his opponent earlier. However, when another opponent joined in, the pressure on him naturally increased. The two Dark Knights worked together and sent powerful waves of energy at Duanmu Sheng. Duanmu Sheng raised the Overlord Spear before himself and wrapped it in his chains. Bang! Duanmu Sheng retreated swiftly and slid across the ground on his feet. Shrouded by his energy, He created two long and narrow ditches as he slid across the ground. The others watched with their mouths agape. After all, Duanmu Sheng did not seem like someone who had just recently broken through to the nascent divinity tribulation realm. He seemed more like someone who had been in this realm for a long time. He wielded his spear skillfully as well. Every time he unleashed a scorching field, 100 strikes and 1,000 layers of waves, he would leave 100 afterimages of his spear in his wake. One could see how terrifying a heaven-grade weapon was. This was the reason why many cultivators coveted heaven-grade weapons. Fan Xiuwen could not help but clap before he praised. If I didn't witness this with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed a disciple of the evil sky pavilion, who did not have any leaves, could hold his own against two opponents. At this moment, the remaining Dark Knight at his side said softly, "Leader, I wish to join the battle as well." Fan Xiuwen raised a hand, but did not reply. Instead, he turned and looked at Lu Zhou, who was standing with a calm expression on his face. The four Dark Knights are in the nascent divinity tribulation realm. They rarely display their strength. The one who's sparring with Mingshi Yin is old first, Qing Zhanghe. The one sparring with Duanmu Sheng are old second, Yu Zhong, and old fourth, Duan Yanhong. This remaining knight is old third, Li Qing. He's an archer with great precision. Fan Xiuwen had deliberately mentioned Li Qing's precision with the arrows. In other words, Li Qing was not a melee combatant. He could join the battle at any given moment. Fan Xiuwen continued to say, "It's extremely rare to encounter a heaven-grade weapon. Li Qing isn't as fortunate. All he has is the earth-grade master bow. However, with this bow, he can hit everything in his range of vision with 100% precision." At this moment, Li Qing's master bow resonated with his avatar and flew into his hand. Fan Xiuwen cupped his hands at Lu Zhou again and said, "I'll say it again, however." Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by a loud buzz outside the great hall. Everyone turned to look at the source of the sound as well. Zhou Jifeng exclaimed in surprise, "An avatar is sprouting leaves." When an avatar sprouted leaves, it would immediately grow. Its height, the distance it covered, the radiation coverage, aura, and primal chi intake would increase as well. Mr. Third is truly talented. He sprouted a leaf in the midst of a battle. Sprouting a leaf meant his cultivation base would improve dramatically. At the same moment, they heard Duanmu Sheng's cry. The Overlord's spear was thrust upward. Duanmu Sheng's clothes were torn to shreds, revealing his tall, sturdy, and muscular body. He extended his arm. His chains were pulled taut. His energy surged out to the surroundings. This was the power of a cultivator who had sprouted a leaf. The Dark Knights, old second and old fourth, had to move back slightly. The Overlord's spear moved down at lightning speed, its tip slicing through the chains. Clang, clang, the chains were broken. At this moment, Duanmu Sheng seemed like an extremely dangerous beast as he held the Overlord's spear with his big hands. "Have a taste of my power." The trio was once again locked in battle. The battle was more ferocious than before. Lu Zhou did not expect Duanmu Sheng to have a breakthrough at this moment. He nodded in satisfaction. Fan Xiuwen waved his hand. His meaning was clear. Roger. The skilled archer, Li Qing, raised his hand and wielded the master bow. His primal chi and energy surged. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said coldly, "I really despise those who sneak up on others the most." He raised his right hand before aiming it forward. Fragments of a miniature card seemed to form a cyclone in his palm. Whoosh! The primal chi in the surroundings was instantly absorbed by the cyclone. Lu Zhou tossed the thing in his hand out gently. Target, skilled archer Li Qing. Upon seeing this, Fan Xiuwen panicked. He cried out, "Dodge it." He did not expect Lu Zhou to make a move at this moment. He assumed Lu Zhou would only continue to observe the battles. At this moment, a massive hand seal appeared in the air. Great Seal of Fearlessness. The Great Seal of Fearlessness made everyone from the Evil Sky Pavilion feel safe and fearless. Fan Xiuwen could sense the danger from this seal. He quickly sent Li Qing flying away with a palm strike. Li Qing tightened his grip on his bow as he flew out of the Great Hall. The Great Seal of Fearlessness continued to shoot forward, picking up speed. Fan Xiuwen attempted to forcefully block it with his vast energy. Bang! It's futile. Zhou shook his head. Everyone was tongue-tied. They watched as the Great Seal of Fearlessness sailed toward Li Qing. This was somewhat similar to when Kong Xian was killed with a single strike on the Holy Altar. The difference was Kong Xian was killed by the Great Vajrawheel Hand Seal. The Great Seal of Fearlessness was not only big, but it was fast as well. Li Qing froze in midair. He held the master bow in his left hand as he pulled on the bowstring with his right hand before he formed an arrow with his energy. His actions showed how skilled he was. His movements were natural and precise. It was unfortunate that there was no way to stop the Great Seal of Fearlessness. Li Qing's arrow only left minor ripples on the seal before it disappeared. His arrow seemed to have been absorbed by the seal. How's that possible? Li Qing's eyes widened. His eyes that were initially filled with confidence had been replaced with fear and despair. The powerful energy of the seal that was dense and scorching like magma landed on Li Qing's body. Nobody could clearly see how Li Qing was defeated. The Great Seal of Fearlessness had blocked their sights. They only saw the Great Seal of Fearlessness appearing before it shot out and disappeared. The spot in the air where Li Qing once stood was currently empty. He was nowhere to be seen. The air seemed to have stilled at this moment. Fan Xiuwen did not even have time to activate his avatar to rescue his subordinate. Li Qing was one of his most loyal and helpful subordinates. How did he lose a subordinate just like this? His attempt to block and stop the seal with his energy had no effect at all. He could only watch helplessly as the seal flew toward a subordinate. He was greatly shaken by this feeling of powerlessness and helplessness. It seemed like the master of Evil Sky Pavilion, Ji Tiandao, his former opponent, had gotten stronger. He was stunned and found this difficult to accept.